Don't you know we're just starting? But you sure we got the clue how that this we go. Don't you know no more art? And as you look to the horizon, not a cloud, but then stormy weather's go too cold. Seems like it crept up out of nowhere, all around you is not what you foretold. You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're done, but the time is hit you, you're not surprised.
Hello, and welcome. Oh, the camera's on.
Cue the Seinfeld. Oh, the cameras. How long have you been watching? Did you see all of that?
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newsroom and welcome to the Davetopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. No tagline. We are here with Snort Burnell, one of my favorites, Dspgaming. So professional. Inability to retain audience and interest, and pre-streams, and the pre-stream is my daily vlogging. Okay, so, as it pertains to the daily vlogging part, because let's be honest, the inability to keep an audience isn't too obvious. Obviously. First things first. As it pertains to the vlogging aspect, Phil needs to talk about his life because he has no one else to talk to. So that's all the pre-stream really was. It's all it was really meant to be. Initially, it started off as a way of conveying a message to people about what his plan was for today and maybe even for tomorrow. But then he had Twitter, which he uploads a schedule on Twitter every day. So then the pre-stream slowly but surely started to evolve about being about him and what he's doing. If he has a vacation coming up or if he's planning special events. Then it evolved a little bit more, talking about his life and some of the things that he had going on. Then it became, oh man, guys, I'm in a really bad spot for money right now, and I could really use your help. Your support, you know what I mean, making it through all this, you know what I'm saying? I have this here, I have this here, I have to pay games, I got these taxes, or, you know, I'm afraid that I might not be able to make my mortgage payment, or I got all these bills, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing whatever I can, guys, to keep the business up and running and whatnot, and I really need you guys to contribute. And back in the day, it used to be just a Patreon, because he was only linked to YouTube. So Patreon was basically covering that gap. And then he screwed things up with Machinima. Then he ended up moving over to Twitch, and he turned that into essentially an all-day begathon. He probably was at his peak of begging probably last year. I'd say around November and December. That's when he had, you know, his different situations going on. Being that Kat was moving in, or the plans anyway were in line for her to move in. And then he has taxes. And then he had, that was like the first time too, he started talking about his depression and so on and so forth. So, and all of that bled into this year and then so on and so forth. As I said, in Gout and Wine and Doubt, we're going to actually go back about a year ago and see what Phil was doing right around this holiday season, right around October, November, December. You're going to get to see Broke Man Phil in his blouse, as Almighty Tevin likes to put out there, praise be Almighty. And we're going to go through some of those things. I'm hoping to work on some of that this week and try to have it out by the weekend. This will be the second weekend that I've attempted to do this, but, you know, work is a hassle. Dave doesn't know anything about that, but work is a hassle. But in any case, let's go ahead and get into the video at hand. The vlogging, like I said, he needs someone to talk to. That's essentially bullshit. And his inability to hold an audience. My bad. Let's jump on that really fast. If it wasn't for detractors, Phil would be dead in the water. This is something that is widely known and is widely accepted. There are people who want detractors to kind of back off just to kind of prove the point. But I think Dave has proven that if the less attention that he has from these negative sickos out here, if you will, the more dumb shit he does to draw attention back on himself. Now, I'm going to need to talk to James the Lesser, probably Jackal's Lair, maybe LSB if he's available, The Wrong Guy, G Money. Basically the guys that Jackal's Lair ends up, the Jackal's Lair and James the Lesser stream with. And I'd like to throw by a couple of situations that I feel that Phil purposely fabricated to get attention on himself, negative or positive. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, all he has is negative attention. And that's the only thing that he can essentially thrive off. He himself realizes, even if it's at a subconscious level, that he needs the detractors. He needs the detractors more than anything. But that's just my opinion, of course. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. And you know this. A GTG Network and Productions. You guys all know the slogan. It's time to watch me work.
Warn everyone. Warning. What you may see right now is going to be absolutely disgusting.
I like how you're laughing too.
Well, it's funny.
Judicious Echoes just did a 100-bit cheer and said, do you think that waning interest in long playthroughs of popular narrative-driven games negatively impacts your streaming? I mean, I'll be honest with you, Judicious Echoes. This is actually something that I've talked about over the past year and a half. Yeah, the thing is, when there's a new game, there's always new game hype, right? Everyone wants to see the new release. They want to get a feeling for what the game is. They want to talk about it with someone, right? But once a new game's been out for a while, that new game hype interest dies out.
That's your fault. So if anyone actually wants to talk to me while I play this game, it would be nice. People are talking about Little Pump the Rapper and all kinds of other shit. I have no fucking idea what anyone's talking about. You know, this is a gameplay stream that I like to interact with my viewers. So if anyone wants to like hang out and talk, I'd appreciate that. Rather than me just playing the game by myself and you guys ignoring me. Or else I don't even know why you're in here. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying, you know. It would be nice. You're the one.
Aw, look at that needy little boy out there on the playground with nobody to play with. Isn't that a shame? He should probably go ahead and take his ball and go home. I mean, he doesn't know that his ball's flat, but I'm sure someone will end up throwing it back to him eventually. In any case, this was a business model of his own creation. He's been doing this for years, essentially since he started. He's always played the new games, get that new game hype, or as people like to call it, the honeymoon phase, especially if you follow Call of Duty and whatnot. And then the interest wanes. But see, the thing is back in the day, one could argue that, oh, well, there are way more games out, so he could just jump from one game to another, to another, to another. Why doesn't Phil do that now? Well, because Phil has way too much time on his hands. Phil has gotten older, and his attention span has gotten shorter. He gets bored very, very easily. And that's because he hates what he does. Let's take someone, for example, like Noah J, a 456. He's a Call of Duty zombie player. And he's in zombie circles. He's like one of the top guys over there. We're talking about someone who streams zombies all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about like anywhere from like 12 to 15 hours. And you can tell that it's not, he loves zombies. Obviously, that's what gets him up in the morning. But he likes shooters in general. He likes video games, or at least likes first-person shooters. And it's what he does. And he's constantly trying to improve. He's constantly trying to find something new. He's constantly trying to get better. And in turn, he has people around him who want the exact same thing for themselves, as well as for each other. So it's not just the fact that he is a very driven, talented person in his own right, but he has like-minded people like himself around him, which is what you want. And when you look at your friends, you kind of want a mixed bag, but you want people who are at least focused on something. It doesn't have to be on what you're doing, but they have to be focused on something. Now, let's take Phil. Phil has no one. He doesn't even have Kat anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's debatable whether she even lives in that house or not, but even if she does, she's spending all her time with Jim. She's at the gym getting right. with Jim. So who does he really have? He has a bunch of faceless individuals online. People who give him money. People who praise him despite his faults, despite the fact that the product that he produces is garbage. And they love him anyway. He can't respect them. He'll never get an honest opinion out of them. He knows that. And he thinks, at least on some level, that the money is enough to at least compensate him. But that's not someone to actually talk to. It's not someone to interact with. It's not someone to bounce ideas off of. He doesn't have that anymore. That's what happens with being alone. So it's a combination of a terrible business practice that he's held on to for almost a decade, and then the lack of interaction with anybody, to be honest with you. It's a rather miserable existence for a rather miserable person. It essentially goes hand in hand. And when you have to look at the chat, or what, not even that, when you have to depend on your chat to push the narrative of the game forward for you, or at least motivate you to continue to play a game, it's very obvious that the game doesn't mean shit to you. And it's very obvious that you don't really feel like streaming except for the fact that you have to. And yet again, their money is not enough. They need to entertain also. They themselves, the audience, the people who came there to be entertained, to relax, to not worry about their fucking problems and issues or whatever the case may be, whatever they're not willing to face right then and there, have to come and deal with a whole nother problem. It's essentially kids. It's a man-child pig raising kids, with kids having to contribute and essentially help that old man pig move forward. It's insane. Insane inception, if you will. What are you going to do? DSP News.
Who's causing the problem here? You. Yes, you. I don't know how you can't see that you're the problem. Yet everything's always my fault. You're right.
Okay, and essentially what happens is you got people who are playing the games themselves and, like we just talked about, don't want to spoil. And you got people who just want to see the next new thing. What's the next big thing? What's the next new thing? Okay? So honestly, long narrative-based games are a double-edged sword. Because at the very beginning, they could be a big boom. People want to come in and see them because of the hype. But then people basically die, you know, the interest dies out when the game is taking 3-4 weeks to fucking beat. You see what I mean?
It's my fault. No. That's YouTube's fault, not mine. It's not me, it's the trolls.
And that's kind of the problem, is this gaming season, again, it's a double-edged sword, because for me, buying these awesome games, they have tons of value, right? $60, but it's a game that has, you know, ridiculous amount of hours of content, both side content and a story content that's robust and interesting and fun. But for my intents and purposes, putting on...
But you're not interesting and fun. You're not engaging. You can't provide any real immersion into the game, into its atmosphere. You yourself are the problem. The game itself is not the issue. If someone, for example, if I'm playing, I don't know, any game. Let's say I'm playing there's talks of a new Star Wars coming out eventually. So let's say I want to play that new Star Wars game, right? But let's say, for example, any YouTuber out of all the YouTubers that I name, this is going to be playing it. Well, guess what? I'm going to go and play it. I'm gonna go ahead and watch them play it, I should say. Am I going to play it myself still? Yeah. I'm not worried about being fucking spoiled. It's a video game. Who cares? And most of them have branching paths anyway. But if this is a YouTuber who I've already invested like my time into, or someone who I enjoy watching, I'm going to continue to watch them. Let me give you an example. Chris Move, if you guys are familiar with him. Shouts out to Chris Move. When I initially started watching him, I was a super young pup, but he used to play a lot of Call of Duty. But he played Madden, he played NBA 2K. He was a mixed bag. He played a lot of stuff. And then he eventually gave up playing Call of Duty. I think he did it towards the end of Black Ops 2 or Call of Duty Ghosts, somewhere in between. So what he ended up doing was he just continued playing sports games. He already had a pretty good transition of games that he could go to. He had branched himself out and not relied on one type of game. And then he decided to pick up playthroughs again, like playthroughs of actual games, Splinter Cell, things like that. I remember when he played Last of Us, and if you go back and look at those videos, they're well over 1 million views each. I remember myself and my friends were watching those videos like fiends. He would put out a video, like so much so, in fact, he was putting out a video like every 14 to 16 hours. And I remember like trying to be the first person on there to watch the video and shit, like on my phone while we were in class or whatever. And it didn't really necessarily matter. He had us beat. You know what I'm saying? There was always a couple hundred people already in there. It was insane. But in any case, I loved watching him play the game. And as I played the game myself, you know what I'm saying? It showed me the do's and don'ts, but it still let me walk my own path. It still let me do what I wanted to do. Even though I would watch his videos almost religiously, you know what I'm saying? Back and forth, and whatnot. It was one way of watching somebody play a game. And it was immersive. He made me... Chris Move brought you into the game and whatnot. Not brought you in there with him. He brought you into the game. And he made you feel it. Dave doesn't do that. DSP cannot do that. He just doesn't have it in him. Darkside Phil is too goddamn lazy. And until he learns how to smarten up and take an hour or a 2-hour playthrough, go in there, do some fucking editing and trim that shit up and make it concise, make it consistent, he's gonna continue to fail. It's in his DNA. So him actually taking the step to making longer videos is only because he had to. Now, Phil, you're going to actually have to put some work in, or you're just going to continue to roll downhill like the piece of shit that you are. There is no two ways about it. Because if not, him making it as far as he did is the perfect example of a motherfucker who tried to ice skate uphill. And it may have worked for a minute, maybe, or maybe there was just a lot of people willing to push him on their way up because they were willing to climb while he was willing to skate. But now, everybody who's important is on top. And all of the next generation were smart enough to go about it in a different way. He's still doing the same dumb shit year in, year out. And that's why. So blaming people because they want to play it themselves, blaming people for this, that, and the third, because that's really what he's doing. He's blaming his audience because they want to play the game and they don't want to watch him. Those things don't fly anymore. They never really did.
Stream is hard. You know, I'm trying to put out a stream here that is going to entertain a large group of people, and especially, for example, if maybe you haven't been here, I haven't been able to tune in for 2-3 streams, now I jump into a narrative-based game, I don't have a fucking clue what's going on, right? That could be a big problem. What if you missed out on 4, 5, 6 hours of gameplay, now you try to jump in and the plot's so confusing, so what are you going to watch for, right? So yeah, you know, in that regard, when you think about games that aren't necessarily long and story-driven, and are easy to just jump into and watch streams of, it's a lot more digestible. Yeah. So I would actually completely agree with you, Judicious Echoes. Basically, for someone who's able to kind of catch up with all my stuff and be here for the live streams, it's great to have a season like this. But for a lot of people, it's like, man, the reason I'm not going to go tune into Phil's stream today is because, you know, he's in the middle of a game that I'm not caught up on. Or, man, that game's way too long, and I'm never going to have time to watch the entirety of this crazy-ass long playthrough. But here's what I want to happen. Okay, everybody?
Or maybe, just maybe, they got fucking lives and they got better things to do. And more importantly than that, why would you expect them to go to your live stream and then go to your YouTube channel and watch that shit back over there? That's retarded. Ladies and gentlemen, if and when I start streaming, if you can't show up to the stream, it's not that big of a deal. It'll be uploaded to YouTube. You don't have to do both. You really don't. And I think that would go for many streamers. Now, keep in mind, like, let me give an example, because I'm good at that. Andy Worski. Andy Worski has jumped back into onto the saddle, and he's trying to get back to where he needs to be. And I'm happy for Andy, to be honest with you. It was only, 5 or 6 months ago, he was the man. And he took a fall. I wouldn't necessarily call it rock bottom, Wings of Redemption type shit, but he took a fall. It was a heavy one, but he's trying to make his way back up. And I like the fact that he's doing it. Now, this is someone who I used to watch, who, used to have, average at least 10,000 viewers at any given time when he streams, who's now at about, I think he's about like 1,800, and he's moving his way back up. Now, Andy will tell you, just like his co-host, that if you can't catch the stream, it's no big deal. You can catch it on his channel. Or you can catch it on the mini channels that re-upload his streams. It's not that big of a deal. You know what I'm saying? Your life, doing what he does, and you know, I'll use Andy just as continue to use him as my example. He's an aspect of your life. He is not your life. No different here with myself, Tevin, James the Lesser, Snort Burnell, or anybody else. We're supposed to be entertainment that's convenient for you. You come in, you watch it whenever you're ready to watch it. If you can't watch it all, no big deal. For those who watch Tevin's live stream, I don't catch all of them. I catch most of them, but I don't catch all of them. And if not, there's always someone who has that shit clipped somewhere. And they have a link that I can just hit that, and then I can go ahead and watch the playthrough of it. Because I think he privates a lot of his stuff. Until he's ready to release it later. That's how this is supposed to work. Phil pushes his streams on his fan base, on the cult, as if it's just another job. That it's almost mandatory for them to show up and give 200%. For what? What's the payoff? What's the incentive? Just my opinion. DSP News.
You know, I wish that my life could be stripped of all responsibility and I could be teleported to a fantasy world where I could just do whatever I want. What I want to happen is I want to have two groups of people. People who tune in just to see me play a certain game, and people who tune in just to see me play, period. You see what I mean? One group of people are going to tune in for the games they like, and that's cool. But then I want other people to say, man, I just like watching Phil no matter what. It doesn't matter what kind of game Phil's playing. He's the kind of gamer that can adjust to whatever genre he's dabbling in today, right? And he can put out a pretty entertaining stream.
Unbelievable.
First things first. To be able to adjust, you must be able to adapt. He can't do that. So with that being said, him asking for two groups of people that he needs to try to satisfy. Oh boy. Anyway, is the equivalent of what he's doing now with YouTube and Twitch. He's sitting there and he loves the fact that Twitch is paying him all this money and everybody there is contributing and showing up and doing what they need to do. But then he felt that the YouTube crowd wasn't appreciating what he was doing. And they needed to step up. And we all saw how that all worked out. Patreon, I don't know if he's even hitting the goals anymore, the 1250. Last time I checked, it was like almost the end of the month, and he was only at like 700, which is still better than what Spoony One's bringing in, but still. So YouTube obviously isn't working. As for Twitch, now that Tut is gone and whatnot, what's he going to do? What can he really contribute to the situation? Other people need to step up over there too. So dividing a fan base doesn't work. If people show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. And it's very obvious that the declining views prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that you're doing something wrong. And since you're not willing to change, and they know that, they're going to just leave. And you find that on YouTube, that should teach you that. There are so many people who will take your product at face value. And they will overlook certain flaws. Audio issues, a lot of things. There's a lot of things that people will put up with if they really like you, they like your personality, or at least like what you're putting out. But eventually, you're going to need to get better. And eventually, those people, even the ones who really want to stick with you, will eventually have to gravitate away from you if you're not listening to what they're saying. The thing is what Phil is, he is a shining example of that. He has seen that year in, year out for almost a decade. And he never learned from it. So now, he went from having, I would say, at any given time, maybe 20, 30, maybe 40,000 people, to now having 300 people, 200 people who are actually very loyal to him. That's it. Everything else is sock accounts. And yet, this idiot wants to take 200 or 300 people and split that in half. Is that what we're doing? we're taking half of a Subway sandwich that's been sitting in your refrigerator, knowing Phil, for probably like a week, right? And now you're gonna cut that 6-inch into like 4 pieces to try to stretch you out until your next Twitch check, which is about a couple of days away. That's what we're doing. We're taking something that's barely edible and can barely satisfy one's hunger, and you want to cut it up into small pieces and spread it out, believing that it's going to provide enough substance and enough nourishment to get him to his next payday. Insane. Fucking insane. Dspnews.
No.
It doesn't matter if he's doing a fighting game, a shooter, a wrestling game, an open world RPG, an action-based combat game. It doesn't matter what it is. Phil's entertaining, and I like hanging out with him and chilling with him and talking with him and interacting with him. It doesn't matter what game he plays. That's kind of the white noise. You see what I mean? So it's an interesting dichotomy. There are people who are here for the game and the gameplay, and then there are people who are here for me. You see what I mean? And either one works. Like, in my opinion, either one's fine.
I welcome anyone who wants to come in and hang out with me on stream. I really don't care the reasoning behind why you're here. I'm good at lying. I'm just going to ban. And if I look down at the stream chat and everything is tut, 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 it's going to be ban, 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 and then we're going to continue on like normal fucking humans and not idiots.
But that's going to be the perfect mix. And right now, I think what's actually happened in this last year is we've seen a migration where it used to be people only come to watch me play new releases. People only come for the game. And now we're finally starting to see a migration of, wow, I actually just kind of like hanging out on the streams with Phil. The streams are a lot more chill. There's no drama. And the shit, the trolling and stuff that used to happen all the time has really died down.
Fuck you. You're a liar.
So I actually enjoy being on Phil's streams now a lot more than I used to because they've changed over the past year, year and a half, right? So there you go. It's all about finding that perfect balance in the long term. You know what I mean? I don't think that there's a certain one way to go about it. If I were hyper-focused on the game, people who want to interact would be angry. If I was hyper-focused only on the interaction, people who actually want to see the game and progression in the game would be angry. So you got to find that balance, right? You have to. And
All right, first off, you don't know shit about balance. All right, so let's go ahead and take his narrative for a minute. If he's hyper-focused on the game, people are going to be mad that he's not interacting. That's probably kind of silly because there are cutscenes. There are going to be times where he needs to take a break. He's good for that. Those are the times you should interact with them. If you're playing through the game, you're getting through it quicker, which in turn allows you to move on to whatever the next game is. So you're not dragging out one game for like a week, 2 weeks, damn near 3 weeks. You can always still give these people their shout-outs. But you have to make time for it. You have to make time you have to really sit there and do some time management to make something like that happen. Now, let's look at the other hand, the other side of that coin, and, if I'm just focused on interaction, then the game never gets done. Well, yeah, of course that's what's going to happen. And then you're probably just going to end up quitting the game anyway. Or they're going to ask you to quit the game because you're not giving it enough attention to where they have started to lose interest. Yet again, the problem will always come back to Dave. If you cannot be entertaining, if you cannot have people immersed into yourself, or at least into the content, then you're screwed. And you have to take that at face value. For whatever reason, it seems to be very hard for him to get that through his head. Which is, whatever. So that's where his problem lies. You splitting up the fan base doesn't do that. You coming in and having different types of fans isn't going to help you in your situation. Especially since this is your main source of income. And because you don't know how to branch out. I mean, effectively branch out. And whatnot, you're just stuck in this rut. And the last vestige that is left for you, which is Twitch, which is that personal hug box, it can't save you forever. Essentially, Phil is over there because he's trying to keep himself safe from the trolls. But what happens when new management, if that ever happens, goes in there and cleans that bullshit up to where it stops turning into a bunch of sensitive ass bitches and motherfuckers can really go over there and be themselves? Plus or minus excessive racism and everything like that. And just acting like absolute goddamn nuts. When they actually let people be themselves and actually go over there on Twitch. Then they're going to have then Phil's going to have problems. He's going to have problems all day. When the bullshit finally stops, and when the Twitch thoughts have been kind of have been weeded out, and Twitch doesn't see a need to protect people and just allow people to go over there and be entertaining, then they're going to have some real issues. Now, one theory going around real fast was the thought that maybe they do what they do over there on Twitch because they don't want a bunch of managed partners, I guess, or they don't want a bunch of affiliates. So maybe they're trying to get a what's the word on it? Hold on to the reins and kind of reel that back on how many people partnerships are being passed to or whatnot. My general thought to that is it doesn't sound right, because now, if you guys are watching on Twitch Reloaded, it's a great channel, you should check it out. There are people who were banned off the platform who are getting emails saying, "Hey, we would like you guys to come back. We would like you to come back to our platform, and we want to make you a managed partner." That's what they've resorted themselves to now, and that's not by accident. So that's not the reason why people get shitted on over there. It's a whole lot of favoritism, and it's all about money, essentially. But eventually, the Twitch thought craze is going to die out, and there's a bunch of different reasons for that. But one, dudes are just going to go out and get girlfriends, or two, some of these guys will realize that there's way too much free quality porn out there to be to be fucking looking at some Twitch slot. I'm sorry. Dspnews.
And I'm working on it. You know, right now, I'm fucking working on it. I'm doing my best to improve.
Silver-tongued talker, right? Oh, I'm just going to say it one way, and hopefully you'll believe it, even though that's not the truth. And that's literally what's happening here. The guy's a liar. The guy's a fucking blatant liar and lying to everyone. But people are believing it because they don't know any better.
I'm doing my best to progress in the games, but also to hang out with you and put out entertaining, interactive streams. You know, there's got to find a balance between it. It's a learning process. You know, I've only been doing this for about a year and a half in this method. Even though I've been a content creator for 10 years, I've only been doing these interactive streams for about a year and a half, and it's hard to find that balance of, gee, how can I hook someone on a long narrative-based playthrough that I'm in the middle of when they might or may not even have any investment in the story or whatever? Well, you know, I have to find a way to get those people excited again. You know what I mean?
And I get the feeling a lot of the people who hate me and constantly make a living.
Now, I think it's fair to say, right, that all of those years stipend on YouTube is what screwed him up. He had been in a room for an extremely long period of time by himself, playing games, coming up with dumbass jokes, and doing it complete and totally on his own. So now that he actually has to be engaging with other people, he looks at that as a job. He looks at that as a chore all in itself. You know what I mean? On top of what he's already been doing. And so that's why he makes it seem, that's why he says dumb stuff like, oh, live streaming is way harder than editing. Because he really believes interacting with people who give you money anyway is hard. Why do you think he got rid of the chat over there on YouTube? It's not just the fact that he was tired of all the hate and shit that was going on over there, and the fact that people were fucking making a laughingstock out of him from his comment section, putting it into their own videos. But also, he was tired of actually micromanaging the chat. He was tired of sitting there and having to regulate that shit, or regulating his comment section, I'm sorry. He was tired of it. And that's why he went ahead and dropped it. And then lied to himself, as well as everybody else, saying that by him not having a comment section anymore, and sometimes disabling ratings, sometimes, that it didn't hurt his videos. I'm sorry, Phil, are you okay with having 170,000 subscribers and barely breaking a couple of thousand views? Barely? Most parts of his playthroughs not even touching 1,000. And you're okay with that? All this to keep this false little pride of yours together. Did you forget that YouTube does pay you? Did you forget that you need as much engagement as possible to get those views? To get those clicks on ads? Okay.
Hating on me don't understand the repercussions of their actions. If I were to ever go away, what would these people do with their lives? They'd have no one else to make fun of.
Crazy Dream just did a 100-bit series, and I enjoy the pre-streams because we can talk to you directly.
No, that's not how life works. Paywall, let the green roll in. Give their money, give their money. Gimme.
Hey, dude, you can talk to me directly during the gameplay, too, but I agree with you that if there's, like, a game that's very engrossing or very action-based, I gotta be, like, heavily paying attention to it, that there's interims where I really can't. Like, if I'm in the middle of an exciting match here in WWE, no, I can't just stop everything and try to do a shout-out out of nowhere, you know what I mean? So I hear you. There are other games, though, like Dragon Quest and the like, where there's tons of time to talk through the whole thing. It's turn-based, right? So it all depends on the game and the genre of game. But I hear, you know, the pre-streams are good. It's a good direct interaction with me.
You know, a lot of people have said, Phil, you don't do vlogging anymore. How dare you? You know, we don't have that personal interaction with Phil anymore. What on earth are you talking about? Like, every day, my pre-stream is basically my daily vlogging, and I get live interactions with all you guys. You know what I mean? So, it's not that it's gone away. it's changed and evolved into something different, right? Now being a full-time streamer like I am.
No, I think what they meant is they wanted to hear something with substance, not the same rinse and repeat shit about, oh, you know what I'm saying, guys, I need help with my bills. If you guys want me to play the new games, you guys need to contribute. You guys need to really help me out. This, that, and the third. Here's the small detractor / hater segment. Oh, you know, I need you guys to, you know, really support the videos on YouTube, even though it's supposed to be just an archive. You know, for all of you guys here, man, you guys need to decide what games you want me to play, because I don't really know what to play, because I don't know what's good and what isn't, even though he's in the middle of 4 or 5 playthroughs at any given time. This is what the pre-streams are. And I would assume that people are just starting to get tired of it. They want something, yet again, with some substance.
Things have really changed and evolved into a different form, and I like where it is. I like doing this, so.
How's the gout, Phil?
And I'm sure he does. It's completely low effort. I'm sure he does like it. The problem is it doesn't matter what you like, Phil. It's about what other people like. And those are the people who are paying the bills. So guess what? You should take what they say into consideration. At the very least, instead of just dismissing it outright.
Oh my god, here's another one. How's the gout, Phil? Another idiot. This is great.
How's that gout?
How's that gout? Who was it? Hold on, now I have to freaking manually mute
How's
everyone.
that Seattle air, Phil?
Yes, I want to play a game, yes.
Alright, you will. Don't worry, you will. I just gotta find out who this idiot is now. Say it again. No, say it again. Say, how's that gout? Go ahead.
How's that Seattle air?
Come on, say it again. I mean, you're so dumb, I know you'll say it again. Say it. Say, how's that gout? Come on.
So with the gout, how's your daughter? With the gout.
He's still saying it. How's the gout? How's the gout? How's the gout? Oh, parent, how's the gout? Give me a cracker. Wow. What pasta do you prefer? I prefer a penne. Oh!
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. That was rather uninspiring, to say the very least. As it pertains to basically audience retention, it's all on him. And at the end of the day, he's not willing to change. He wants to continuously be paid he wants to do the bare minimum to get as much as he possibly can. And sorry, Phil, but Davetopia doesn't work that way anymore. It's under new management. As it pertains to vlogging, it's just daily bitching and complaining, and basically, I have no friends, I have no one to talk to, I have no one to interact with. There you go. And he uses the pre-stream to stretch out the actual stream itself. Almighty Tevin, Argent, Theo, they've all talked about this at one time or another. And what they said then rings true even now. It is what it is. And that's the end of that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh yes. GTG Network and Productions. I am your host / anchor, GTG, and I'm signing off. End of broadcast. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I wish I could sit on my ass and not do a goddamn thing and get paid for it. Must be great. I wonder how Richard Review Tech USA got away with it for so long. One could wonder.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for bid during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised.